welcome to the bench. How we doing, Horus?
I'm really tired. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, that's fair.
I
That's
just
fair.
got back
I
an
got
hour
some
or two
energy.
ago.
I'm drinking coffee and shit again, so I got you covered. At least I'll try
Yeah,
to.
it's good. I got a puppy though.
Oh, you got a pup.
He's
You know
sleeping,
that provides
giving me his
emotional energy.
energy. He missed me.
Thank you guys for joining us today. We have an awesome show for you today. Our topic today is spearfighting. Before we get into that, we're going to talk about upcoming events. Same slide as last week, but
Sweet.
what do we got?
We got Punic War down in, I believe that's Carbondale, on April 5th. I really want to go to that. So let's see if I can make it. Olympics is April 24th through 27th in Indianapolis. That's actually where I just came from. Well, one of the many places. And that's always a lot of fun. Beltane down in Tennessee. It's usually at Moneybell State Park, May 1st through 4th. I don't know if I'll be able to make that one, but hopefully. I want to go to a lot of events. I haven't gotten to fight a lot. And SKBC and Missouri will both definitely be there, May 15th through 18th. This is going to be my first SKBC too.
Hell yeah.
So it'll be exciting.
And go ahead. And
oh, you might be doing something there.
Oh, I might. I was gonna say I might be going to Punic War. I was gonna.
Oh,
but go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Talk about SKBC.
Yeah, Tannet's getting ignited at SKBC.
Yeah. I don't have my soundboard anymore.
Yeah.
I ran out of USB ports. I ran out of I had to plug.
You need a USB extender.
Yeah, that's effort.
Is that too lame or something?
It's just too much. Let's meet our guests today. We have the fabulous Sir Marik, and we have the Batman as our guests. Welcome, Marik and Batman. How you guys doing?
Doing awesome. Good, man.
We did have Pickles is very excited.
Which Pickles? There's two of them.
Pickles.
I know one of them's gonna be upset that I'm acknowledging the other one.
Pickles. Which Pickles are you? Are you Gherkin Pickles?
Sir Pickles of EBF.
There's Sir Pickles.
The Pickles.
Oh, it's
the Pickles.
This is getting serious.
Yeah, that's him. That's him.
Pickles says that's a dick. So looking at our agenda today, so the question is, why would we have Marik and Batman on our show? Well, here's the answer. The agenda today is for spearfighting. And who best to have on our show other than Marik and Batman for spearfighting? So our spearfighting agenda for today is who are Marik and Batman? What makes a good spear kit? Tournament spearfighting. Field spearfighting. And let's talk about the history, growth, and I can't see it because my camera's in the way. The future of spearfighting. Let's start with Marik. Marik, who are you?
Hi guys, I'm Marik. I've been playing for about 15 years now, since about September of 2010, right out of high school, basically. I didn't really start doing spear until probably about a year or two into the game. I had kind of gone to this really lovely event. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called War. And there was some dude just selling spears and daggers out of his car because there wasn't, I mean, we didn't really have a lot of formal vendors other than like Forged Foam, which shout out to them. But a lot of it was like DIY culture. So I had this big poof ball spear that I bought for 20 bucks. It was 8 feet. And that's what kind of got me started. And this dagger, which, I mean, they're kind of one and the same. But I just practiced with both. And I didn't really, like, get my first tournament win until maybe, like, 2015. And I think that was at this nice event called Winter War down south. And it kind of just went off from there. And I won rag, and just keep spearing, you know.
Let's take some questions from chat. While we're doing that, while the chat questions are loading up, I've got a few questions of my own.
Me too.
Sir Marik, are you in a unit?
Yes. So Hellhammer is my unit. We are Chaos Undivided. Been in the game for several decades. They're my family. I was just barreled in last year after being a barreler for like, I don't know, like trying to remember since like 2016, 2017, somewhere around then. Before that, I was in Imperial Atlantis, which is Southern unit, black and teal. And then before that, I was in our little realm unit, the Talons. That was a lot of fun. And then Path of the Dragon. I don't know if you've ever heard of that little unit with Ferrix, Kurai, and Tisco, and all them kids. Yeah, I've been several units over the while.
I knew you had like a connection to those kids. I didn't know you were an actual Path person, so that's pretty cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Corvus Cornix asks, "Who is Marik's cat?"
Well, I have two. The one you're probably seeing, that is Kerrigan. Let me see if I can get her attention for y'all.
Thank you for following. And thank
Oh,
you for
this one right over here, that's BB. She's a little chunky black and white cat. She's like a little moo cow. And then if I can get Kerrigan to come out, maybe. Trying with the laser. I had her out right here. Oh!
Thank you for following, Annika.
She's so fast.
Yeah, she's a speedy little devil. I've had her since about 2014, early 2015.
Heck yeah.
She's my oldest cat, and then BB's the youngest. I found her, BB, under a car in the rainstorm one night while I was working. Brought her home. She was just a little kitten. Yeah, they're both sweet cats. Kerrigan's kind of a boss, though.
Is
she's a boss.
Is Kerrigan named after the StarCraft character?
Yes. So there's this nice little game that I used to play called StarCraft 2. And I used to be big into the 3v3 tournament matches back in the day. Primarily like a Protoss player, but I love the character Kerrigan, and she clawed the shit out of me when she was a kitten. And I was just like, wow, you're the real Queen of Blades. And I was like, oh, makes sense. So that's how she got her name.
That's so good.
So you're known for being a spear fighter. What's your favorite non-spear weapon kit?
Oh, well, I guess lately it's been crossbow.
Okay.
And short.
Spear, but long distance.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where I can be cheeky. Still the same kind of person, but I guess shoot you.
Okay.
You know.
Mongoose wants to know: is there any particular spear fighters that inspired you when you were starting out?
I mean, I would guess that would be my knight, Sir Quentin. He's the one that really kind of like drove me to do spear. Watching him just tear the shit out of anyone that came across him. And he also let me borrow the spear that got me into it, and pointed me to the dude that was selling weapons out of the back of his car at war. He's like, hey, here, get a spear. And
if you kids want some spears, I got spears for you. It's like a trench coat with a bunch of Belgard daggers.
Yeah, but I mean that was my initial inspiration. Then when I started getting out more.
Oh boy. Sorry guys, it's gonna be that kind of night. I don't know what's going on, but if it's Thursday, we're having tech problems. Right? Okay, Marik, you're back. You're back. All right, you were briefly gone.
Oh, I was gone.
Yeah. Tell us about. Tell us. Let's see.
I was talking about like initial inspiration, and then
Yeah.
like once I started getting out into the game, like especially once I started traveling. I mean, you got part of the inspiration is right here, sitting next to me in the channel, and that's Batsy. There was also Wolfenstein, which he was briefly in the channel. Yeah, I would say those are the ones that kind of like pushed me. And then watching, especially when I went down south, watching Trowan of the Suns tear the heck out of a line at Ides of March. Actually, him and Aiden both solid.
Where did
and Wolfenstein when I went to Wolfie when I went down south as well.
Nice.
Not Wolfie. Technopop.
Techno. Okay. Where did you get the name Marik?
Oh, I don't know if you guys ever read the Michael Crichton book Timeline.
Yeah, actually.
So there's a character in there named Andre Marik, and he goes back in time to like the 14th century, and he kind of like he's a archaeologist, and he kind of just falls in love, like the typical like anthropologist thing does, go to the tribal and just inundates himself in it, in the story. But I just liked his presence as a character within the book, but I didn't want to like verbatim copy
that makes sense.
The name, so I changed it to Marik instead of Merrick, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds right. I've read that book. Amazing book. Horrible movie. Amazing book.
I mean, the movie's a little campy, but you know, to like an 8-10-year-old me, I'm like, heck yeah, man. Knights, dudes, chicks, explosions, whatever, man. The famous Paul Walker and Gerard Butler.
Any last words about your history or introduction to the game?
Not really. I mean, I'm just really glad to be in the presence of people I thought were my betters, and they look at me as my equals.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Depends on who won the tournament that day.
True. Still my friends.
Fair enough. Up next, Batman. Who are you?
All right. Well, thank you, Tan, for the introduction. I'm Batman. I have been officially fighting my... I don't know exactly the time frame. I can tell you I started on Valentine's Day of 2012, because that was when we had Wolfpack opener. That was my first official fight. What got me into it was 2 days before Wolfpack opener, I just had my heart broken by a girl. I went off the deep end. I face painted, and I went to go climb at the climbing wall at the local college. And apparently they were having an awesome, whatever, like little, like all these cool hobbies or, sports. They were showing, like all the people were showing what sports options there are at the college. And I'm climbing at the climbing wall, and I look over, mind you, decked out in face paint because I just went off the deep end. And I looked over, and I saw a bunch of nerds swinging weapons at each other. And I said right away, what a bunch of fucking nerds. I gotta go try that. And I got to fight one fight with Summit from Hellhammer. He hit my shoulder. I was addicted. And I said to them, I was like, hey, when can we do this? When are you guys doing this again? They're like, well, normally we practice on, like, I remember Saturdays and Tuesdays or whatever. But unfortunately, we have an event going on this weekend, and we won't be able to have a practice. I was like, well, cool. Where's this event at? And they're like, well, we don't have any space. We can't you can't ride down with us. And I was like, no, you don't understand. Where is it? I will be there. And once again, shows you how crazy I am. Summit said, well, it's going to be in Bloomington Normal at the arena, whatever the track arena is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went down Friday night, partied with my friends in Chicago, because at the time I actually did drink. And so I went out partying the night before, woke up the next day, threw some really crappy face paint on, and I know someone in this chat is going to laugh about and bring this up, Wolfenstein. And I went down there and I fought in Wolfpack opener, not knowing what I was doing, and just had fun. I remember walking through the door, I found Summit and all of the Sandplanes group, which is the realm that I met up in Point. And I think they didn't think I was going to show up. They were like, oh my God, he's here. And I was like, let's do this. And ever since then, it's just been one awesome roller coaster. So technically, I guess if we do the math, I think I'm around 12, 13 years.
Okay. Sounds about right.
That. Yeah, I mean, I know I'm newer to the sport despite being older. So pretty much it's been nonstop fun with all my friends. I guess first tournament win.
13.
13?
13
Okay.
Last month, yeah.
Perfectly. My first tournament win technically would have been, I believe, Melkor May. It was within 1 year or 1.5 years of fighting, and I won it with a spear because it was just a whatever. You just entered the tournament and whoever won. They didn't have classes. So technically I won it with a spear, and they were surprised by that. I guess my actual official spear win would have been, I mean, I know I won a couple Gittins. I honestly can't remember. I know I won Ragnarok, and I upseeded that one of the Jesta guys, Sky, who won it for like 10 years straight. And then I know, Marik, you won it the year after me, if I recall. So, but that's pretty much been the ride for me. It has been as amazing as can be. You asked about units. Originally, I was a Hellhammer barreler my first year. Found out it wasn't a good fit, made some mistakes. Decided it was just best for me to part ways. Still good friends with all of them now. I made my amends. Then I moved on to, it would have been the Order. That was a red unit, which is kind of the Ebb and Light is the runoff from that now. But I was part of the Order. And then I joined Asura, which was an Amp Guard fighting unit. And then pretty much every unit I've ever been in, well, other than Hellhammer, has kind of just disbanded or fallen apart. And now I'm an ABF, part of EBF. So.
Okay. So Wolfenstein did say, do we get to talk about Batman's original garb?
I knew you were going to ask. All right, so
I don't know if this picture that you sent me is it. I don't think it probably
no,
is.
I will see if I can find it, and I will see if can we post it up for everyone to see and laugh at, because it is so embarrassing. It is because I didn't have even a tunic. I got the awesome loner tunic from Sandplanes, and along with my face paint, it was a yin yang symbol on my face. I had a yin yang, half of it was white, the other black, and the idea was the eyes were all, so on. And I then proceeded to take my hair and spike it up like devil horns.
Yes! Embarrassing. This is amazing.
You're literally dressed like that right now.
I know. But at the time, I was trying to show my intensity, and of course, that was my expression. And then I had this awesome Sandplanes. I think it may have been dark purple, blue, whatever. It basically, somebody took a tablecloth, cut it in a rectangle, and then cut a circle in it and threw it over me. And that was my awesome tunic. And of course, Wolfenstein, there's some video of me on there, because it's the one time you see me on that entire video of how they were showing Wolfpack opener, and you see me walking up with a sword board, and I'm approaching who's Gadget's husband, really tall guy, Kralos, I think he's in Horde.
Yeah.
If anyone knows Kralos,
Great dude.
tall. Oh yeah, awesome guy.
He's a tree.
Tall.
He's
He
a
is
tree.
tall. And you see me walking up to him, and I'm just like hunched over, walking up to him. Clearly, I knew sword and board. And all you see him look at this, be like, and you just see him throw the shot with the flail, and then you see me walk away like this. And yes, that was my wonderful moment of stardom. so yes, there's the embarrassing, awesome start of my tunics. That hideous look. I look at it now, I'm just like, yeah, yes. So, oh my God, don't find that video yet. Save it for after. Wolfenstein says he can find the video.
How'd you end up with the spear?
What's that?
How'd you end up with the spear?
So, it actually all happened on accident. So I got to meet Wolfenstein, who actually is pretty much the reason I got into it. I saw him spearing, and I was like, that looks kind of cool. But, you know, Sam Plains had the rule you had to do sword and board for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And, if anyone's ever seen me sword and board, it clearly was going well for me. And even to this day, it's still clearly going well for me. And at Spring Wars, I picked one up. Someone let me use it. I think it may have been Wolfenstein, actually. And just
Band
came
shop?
natural to me. It was band shop, low profile, because Wolfenstein was kind of bringing in the low profiles, and they were still looked down on. And pretty much, it was like it just came natural to me. It was like shooting pool, and I'm a huge pool player. So that's literally how it was to me. Is I was able to see all the gaps on people, and I hit them. I was good at hitting them. And I remember that was my Spring Wars. I remember Summit telling me. Summit is Chris Johnson, by the way. He's from Hellhammer as well. He said, "Dude, you were getting attention with that spear." And I was like, "Cool. All right. Well, I'm having fun. Let's keep at it." And that kind of was what carried me on. So. Oh my God, honey, why'd you hold up here? Hey, bring it, give it here. All right. So Sparrow shows it. All right, can
I found it.
Oh, sweet baby.
That's amazing.
Oh wow.
I can't.
That's so good.
It's so bad.
I had a tunic like that, but it was blue. It was just blue
It is so bad.
under an
Thank
over
you.
an Under Armour shirt.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, that is what got me into spearing, and then I just took it to the level that I did, and there weren't many renowned spearmen either. That's the unfortunate thing about spearing, is we don't have, especially at the time, there weren't many renowned. So to have, he's got the video. Oh, Wolfenstein found the video. Regardless, so he was my inspiration to all of it, and got me on that path, and has been great to work with.
Is that's Horus? so Wolfenstein he posted the video in the chat, and he's like, "Look who else I found in the 2012 Wolfpack video," and it's the timestamp he said it's Horus, I think wearing rogue garb and fighting somebody. That's wild.
Oh yes.
You were in Rogues, that's right, with Slagar, because we had Slagar up in our realm too.
Yep.
Uh-oh, we lost. Speaking of Horus, I think we lost Horus. Where'd he
Oh,
go?
he's right here.
Oh,
Yeah, he's
I
right
came back.
He came back.
I disappeared and came back. That is indeed me. That was a fun fight. Those fights with Brooder.
I'm looking. I'm just browsing this video on the side, and I see a ton of Amtgarders in this video. Like I see Razor,
Oh, yeah.
I see Rathius. That must have been the Wolfpack that they all talk about having gone to, because they were like, "Yeah, we all went to a Wolfpack one year." I guess it's the same.
Yeah,
one.
that I think so. I
What
think
year
this
was
one
that?
Chato went to too.
There's some, I don't know.
Was that 2011? 2012?
Should have been 2012.
It's probably 2012. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I was
Sounds right.
just learning to like really use my shield offensively, because I think in those fights with Brooder, there's one that I like I punch him in the shoulder, but I just ride up into his face really hard and just punch him in the face. I felt so bad.
It was discouraged back then. It was
I wasn't
discouraged.
trying to hit him in the face. I got him in the shoulder. It's just low, like the low strap, you know? So then when I like pushed, I didn't realize that my shield edge was gonna like slide on him. So I push him and then it just slides straight into his face.
Oofta.
Yeah, it looks real bad.
So,
Sure it
Batman,
sucked.
how'd you get the name Batman?
So, part of Belagarth is you have to pick a name, and the rule in Sand Plains was if you didn't pick one soon, you would they would give you one. And so initially, and the reason why I was like, well, I'm called Batman in real life as well, and someone was like, no, man, you don't go into the sport picking fantasy comic book character names because people are gonna give you a beat down. It's like being an elf. You're gonna get a beat down if you're an elf. And I'm like, but I mean, I'll respond at least. He's like, no, we're gonna give you the name Piton, which if anyone knows about a Piton, yeah. So a Piton is a climbing spike when you're
Piton.
climbing. Yeah, Piton.
Okay.
It's basically it's what you spike into a crack and you clip into that, and that keeps you from falling while you're rock climbing. Because you knew I love to rock climb.
Yeah. And anyone who's played Dungeons and Dragons third edition or second edition knows what a piton is, because that was always on a list of things to buy in the player's guide, and everybody always had to look up what a piton was because they're like, what the fuck is that? Anyway, continue.
Yeah, no, and so after a while, I think we kept it around for about 6 months, maybe to a year. And the thing was, is I even themed all of my tunics around the Batman logo and everything. The reason why, and so we went with that. He finally was like, you know what? Let's just acknowledge the Batman. Let's go with that. The reason why I'm called that is actually nothing to do with the DC character at all. I actually, other than watching the movies, I have never read the comic books.
Oh wow.
I like the character. I like him in the TV series, the Justice League. I like him and all that. But the reality is so I own a pest control company. I got 4 employees, and I've been doing this since I was 19 years old. I bat-proof homes for a living. So I have customers who call me that because I bat-proof homes.
That's wild.
So, yeah, it has nothing ironically to do with the DC character at all.
Amazing.
It just kind of went down that path, ironically. And of course, as I started indulging more in the character, yes, I did grow an affinity with that because I was like, oh, a brooding, intense person. Yeah, I think I could have some with parental issues, by the way. Geez, I think I got some of that going on. So
that's interesting, and that's kind of because like I think to myself sometimes when I think about your name, I'm like I bet you picked that as a kid and it just didn't age well or something like that. And it's like, actually, that's an amazing backstory for the name. Like it kind of elevates the name. That's super cool. That's awesome. Question. Somebody asked a question. Not that one. What did they say? They said, what grade do you climb at?
Okay, so my highest that I've ever sent is a 512C. I know I can send 13s. My highest on-site has been a 12B for actual rope climbing, lead climbing, sport climbing. If we're talking top rope, I've gotten 13s. I've gotten 13As. I know I could do 13s on lead. The problem is I don't have the attention span. If I can't get it in 2 or 3 tries, like without falling, I don't want to do it. Like, and when I say those are routes that I can climb, that's without falling, by the way. So like that means I did the entire climb without falling. That's what I could consider my grade. That being said, if we're talking about bouldering, the highest I've gotten so far is a V8. Once again, I'm not a boulderer because unfortunately I have had, it's funny because people think I'm crazy for lead climbing. That's where like people like, that's how you die. And it's like, no, bouldering is how you die. Because all you're doing is falling from a certain distance and you gotta make sure you fall right. I have fallen like 3 times. I've almost been killed bouldering. and I have unless I have no choice, I typically don't boulder. So I'm at a V8. Typically, I can on-site V5s, 6s without having to give it a second try easily. I don't push bouldering because you get injured easily. You have to trust people to catch you if there's people watching you at all. And after falling head first 3 times and almost landing on my neck after 15-foot falls, nah, I'm good. I like roots.
It's it's my philosophy on PRs in the gym. Like, I know I can, but I don't want to because it would suck if I screw it up. You know, it's kind of the same philosophy, I would imagine. Same question I shot towards Marik. Outside of spear, what's your favorite weapon combo?
I'm with Marik. Crossbows.
Okay.
They're so dirty. They're so dirty. In fact, this is because we've opened up this this Pandora's box.
Mm-hmm.
Someday, and I'm throwing this out there to anybody, I'm gonna show up with about 10, 12 crossbows on me, and I'm gonna just start shooting. And I'm going to pay someone to run over and grab arrows, bring them back, load the crossbow, and then I could just keep shooting like a pirate. And I'm going to have the cool little, the bandolier, the whole 9 yards. And I'm just going to have fun.
Heck yeah.
Because crossbows are too much fun. Like I said, you can't help but not want to run around with crossbows. I love dual-wielding crossbows. And I already got 4 of them on me. So, yeah. That is it. So...
They're gonna make a rules change whenever Casey finally makes this self-loading crossbow design that he's talking about. I'm sure.
Interesting.
Well, I put this out there and I've worked around the design, and I think glass could perfect this. By the way, Horus. When someone shows up with a chew canoe, crossbows are gonna get nerfed. And for anyone who doesn't know what a chew canoe is, it was a Chinese crossbow invented back during the Three Kingdoms era by Zhuge Liang, and literally it's like a gun. And what happens is you just shoot, and it's just a magazine of arrows. You pop it into the crossbow, and this is how you shoot. And you can shoot up to like 10 arrows typically.
Well,
now we won't be able to do 10 arrows. You could do like 4 or 5, and then have a new magazine, pop it in, and go.
Jesus. We don't need this.
Exactly, the auto crossbow.
Also, I don't know why when you said chew canoe, I was like, it's a train, but it's also a boat.
You have one person behind you wearing, carrying or have a big backpack full of crossbows on the lead, and then you have a belt-fed chew canoe, and you're just like, just mowing.
Exactly. That's it right there.
That's how we bring back sword and board supremacy. That's how we do it.
Yep. That's how you do it.
We can't have nice things. Plain and simple. We can't have nice things.
Always extremes.
Let's talk.
That's so good.
Let's talk spears. So our first agenda topic here is what makes a good spear kit. And for those playing the home game, what we mean by that is what makes a good spear kit in terms of the spear you're using, but also your additional equipment like shields, armor, etc. Marik, kick us off. What makes a good spear kit?
Well, when we're talking spears, length is always the biggest question. Where do I start? What's a good range? I'm always a fan of 8. You don't need any longer, and you can always go a little shorter if you need to. However, as far as I guess just general purpose, the 8 will have much more usage than a 6-foot, but a 6-foot has good leverage potential. There's several people that can use that efficiently, but 8 for defense and reach, ideally. Any longer, it starts to limit you personally. Like supporting equipment, it really depends on how you approach the field or the fighter itself. But I mean, typically on a line, it'd be better to have some sort of forward buckler on your forward arm of some kind. If you're skirmishing, back shield for sure. And depending on how you spear fight, always determines the selection of equipment. So like lately I've been using buckler to help with more of my field fighting rather than necessarily my skirmish, and that's been proving very effective. But when I was using a back shield, like its main usage, obviously protecting your back or those back hackers, but with the way I fight, I press in rather than pulling back. And so if I press in on an opponent, they throw something wide, it's gonna hit my back shield every time, especially like a wide wrap that most people do. It's like one of the most common shots. It's gonna hit the back shield and boom, my spear is going right into your shoulder. Horus, I think you've experienced that a few times.
I have.
So, well, so I guess we're talking in general terms now. So maybe more of an experienced fighter. We can talk about like what if maybe there should be a difference for newer spear fighters. We'll jump on that later. But so you're suggesting 8 foot, if I heard that right?
Yes.
Buckler is the new thing for you.
Yeah.
And what about armor?
Armor? Well, the main thing is you're opening yourself up to other polearms, reds, spears, and archery. So you have to think about the main parts that you're going to get hit with. And so for safety wise, I always recommend a helmet. If all you can afford is like a leather mask, great. That's better than nothing. However, I'm a proponent of like a cheap steel helmet, like my kettle helm. Like they're about $60 compared to like a tooled leather mask or something. But it depends on what you have available. Some type of protection for your head. Kidney belt of some kind. Still gives you articulation. Greaves and like bazubans. That's usually my go-to. And when we were playing Dag a lot, I wore my shark mail, but shark mail is a little beyond that. But even just some basic chain, like $100 butted suit, is still the cheapest armor choice for a lot of people. Something that you can move in, have breathability. Those are always big things when it comes to spear, just because a lot of cardio, you're moving, and you don't necessarily want to be an armored tank. But those would be my choices. But primarily like helmet, kidney belt, greaves, because those are general safety.
What do you carry a sidearm, like a short sword or anything on a belt, anything like that?
Sometimes. I usually have like a little dagger on a pick clip, but I find I don't use it as often as I used to, mostly because it's my fighting style that plays a major factor. You would think as someone who goes into the fray, like getting into someone, I would be more used to pulling out a dagger and using it. However, with the way I fight with my spear, I use my spear like a dagger, so I don't rely on that too much because that's an extra action when I don't have enough time, because usually people are charging me, so I have to weigh the pros and cons of that. But if I am kind of in a slug match or someone grapples me, most definitely I'll have a sidearm.
Batman, what's your ideal spear kit?
To back what Marik says, it is very much dependent on the person. If we're talking anywhere, the typical spear that I would recommend is 6 foot to 10 foot on the field. Now, we got guys that have some 11s. I've seen those showing up now, and so on. And for the record, by the way, for all the people out there saying, we'll just get longer spears, by the way, Horus knows this, Marik, you know this. I have 14 and a half at my house. If we want to play escalation, you will not beat me. Just establishing dominance right now. And I can get up to 16. So we can play the game, but I don't want to. But back to what I was saying is the typical recommendation I would say is 6 to 10 feet. The reason why I say that range, typically when you get beyond 10 feet, it becomes unwieldy. I'm gonna be very forward. Yeah, you got reach, but the problem is your effectiveness of being able to throw shots without being seen. You stand out more. The shots thrown in general are very difficult. 6 foot has a purpose without hesitation. You get a lot of people who show up with the big tower shields in a single 6-footer, or the 5-footers, and they just stab one armed. Those are all options. My ideal is I like 9 foot because I can choke up really fast. I'm fast. I'm a little more aggressive, I'd say, out of all of our impalers, Merrick. I feel like I'm probably the most aggressive. So I rely on my speed. And I agree with you on the back shield. You have your choices. You have your buckler versus your back shield. Bucklers are amazing for defensive shield spearmen. When you got Troan and so on, like, because they don't throw as many shots, they're more the guardian angels, I call them. They're more defensive. They need that to protect themselves from what's in front of them. Whereas in my case, I got the back shield. I'm moving fast. I'm gonna do spins into shots. I'm gonna get up close and personal, like Merrick says. Throwing that shot usually winds up hitting my back shield, and it's like, hey, we're close and personal now. I've already choked up. I'm gonna stab you. Or the other thing that I personally love, because we did talk about it, having a sidearm. Like Merrick, I have a min max flail. I got the what is it that Kodak makes? Those little min.
The baby flails.
Yeah, 23.5 inches, no min weight, and you just hit people with them, and it just hurts because his flails hurt. But those are great for close encounters. The problem is, like Merrick really described and put it in a good choice of words. By the time they close in, usually, like I said, we're going for the pocket shots. We brought their shields up there covering the corner. They're gonna have a hard time throwing the wrap because they're that far away. They're already engaging. They're close to me. I'm gonna toss my spear side. We're gonna have a good old grappling match. I love to grapple. I love to brawl. I love to fight. Like that does not bother me. I will overpower you, pull you down with me, or hold you down until one of us is dead. Hopefully my line has caught up to me. If not, well, shucks, it didn't work out in my favor. So but ideally speaking, that is my setup because it works for my build, but it always depends on each person. Armor based, I hate armor. I'm not gonna lie one bit. When I do wear armor, don't get me wrong, it's great, but it needs to be breathable. My leather kit gives me that breathing. It allows me that extra shot, makes people have to double me. Personal favorite, obviously, is I don't even bother putting armor on my left arm because I'm a lefty. So this arm shouldn't typically ever get hit. But my right arm, I'll throw a greave on there because when you throw that out there, oh, hey, it's out there to possibly get hit by a blue if I'm too close to someone. But the big one for me, if anyone's ever seen me wearing armor besides a cup and eye protection, is a helmet. A good helmet, besides safetiness, archers kill me the most. I mean, I think archers kill us all day long, Merrick. Let's be honest here.
Yep.
And having my setup, because if anyone's ever seen me, I got between the rice hat and the gambler, or I call it the bounty hunter hat. It's got a little more whiting to it. I can use that to deflect shots, like headbutt arrows, and so on and so forth. That is, to me, my arrow saver, along with the back shield. Like if I do an overextension, I know to spin my back towards the archer or the line because there's going to be an arrow or something flying at me. I will say though, each person has to figure out what their preference is. Like Merrick likes 8-footers. I use 8-footers. I prefer the 9 just because it gives me that beautiful amount of reach, and I can choke up and just drill someone down if they're closing in. That being said, bucklers versus back shields. Once again, I'm gonna also say this, and this probably goes a little bit into tournament fighting, but I'm not gonna go that far. A buckler in my book creates bad habits because keeping your arm like this the entire time. And if you're in a tournament and you don't have that, you automatically go to that stance. Well, look at that. Look at that. It's there. And Merrick and I both know I'm hitting that right away, and I'm going to take your arm. You have already just put it out there for me for sale. So bucklers I don't like for me because it creates bad habits. So, but once again, it's to each their own. If you can adapt to that, there's nothing wrong with that. Leather armor, biggest pain in the butts in the world for me. I'm not gonna lie, seeing a fully armored guy or a fully armored person with a big old buckler covering most of their body, and if the buckler is designed right, it just cuts their hand off right here at the wrist, so I can't even hit their, it's like, okay, I gotta take their leg, and now basically I gotta go away from an angle here and try to get them in the back because that buckler's covering everything and they're just gonna sit there and so on. Either that, I'm gonna have to tie up their spear as we move forward and run them over. We have choices, but so like I said, when you look at the setups, I find that to be the biggest difficulty for me to face, but it's not because they're so well guarded, you can't do much, plain and simple. But also, the bigger the buckler, the more shots you are limited. You can't do a lot of trick shots with a big old buckler on. It limits your throw shots. So you gotta find what's comfortable for you. I'm fast, I'm mobile, I want reach, I want my back shield, and I want my helmet just to block any arrows that were gonna get me. So
makes sense. Wolfenstein asks, do either of you switch lead hand for line fighting or just turning?
Depends on who you're fighting.
very
Really?
much.
I mean, primarily, like, Batsy and I are fighting, like, lefty spear. Mostly because, like, the most common enemy we're fighting is sword and borders. And I'm not going to play around with your shield. It's going to tire me out. So I'm going to switch to lefty, fight you, until I run to a lefty who's switched, or a poleman, or someone else that I may have to change how my guard is, or my positioning just to get a shot in.
And when you say fight lefty, what does that mean for the non-spear initiated? What is that? Does that mean your left hand is in the back?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So left hand there, and now the bread and butter has opened up on what would be my opponent's right side, which is their shoulder all the way down to their sword side hip, their leg. That's what I call the crescent.
Okay. Thank you for subscribing, Banjax. Whoosh wants to know, how often do you get pulled across the line when people grab your spear?
You want me to take this one, Marik?
Sure, sure, buddy. I mean, it's the same answer for both of us, probably.
I'm gonna be honest with you. If you can pull me across the line, good job. I mean, you're asking a guy who likes to fight and grapple and rock climb. My arm strength is if you're pulling me across the line, it's because pretty much you outweigh me. It's not because of strength. Or there's 3 people that grab my spear and pull me over. That's like, well, okay, I can't fight that. But it doesn't happen very often. I mean, don't get me wrong, when it does, it's always a good time. But like I said, I'm going to dig my heels in. I'm going to pull you back. My goal is to pull... Actually, when people grab spears, or you see the guy, always my favorite, and I'm sure Marik can attest to this, is you see the person trying to grab the spears, go right for their hand. Like they're holding it out here like this because they're trying to bait you to go into here, and then they bring the hand in, stab for the hand, because they immediately put their hand out to stop it, and it's like, hey, there's no hand-on weapon there, buddy. You just drop your hand down now. And so that's the one thing I always tell people when I see the hand, like the guy trying to grab, it's like just shoot right, just stab for their hand, because the look of like, you're supposed to go here. Why'd you go here? Because you stuck it out there. But that being said, once again, is just, yeah, when they grab that, I'm gonna dig my heels in, I'm gonna pull you back, and the goal is they pull the spear right to the side right away to try to get their body in. If you pull them forward, I'll try to adjust the spear almost in front, and I'll punch it forward into them. And it's like, dude, you just killed yourself. I mean, you can stay light, but you messed up. But that's part of the honor game. But so yeah, like I said, I don't find it happening often. It does happen, but yeah, yes. Banjax does say it right. Yes, I think probably more than half the field outweighs me, but I try to fight like I'm 200 pounds. I try it, so.
Well, we're used to fighting just people taller than us all the time, Batsy.
God, yeah.
Horus, what's your ideal spear layout?
I got a shield in one hand and a spear in the other.
Yeah.
I mean, I
gotta go
really
from
just
side.
do that because other spears are very strong. So if you don't have range, you end up having more range if you're one-handing your spear and they're two-handing theirs. The problem is that other good spear fighters usually are fighting spear fighters, so they'll have armor on, and then it makes them much harder to stab. So I can't one-handed stab them at all then, and I'm no longer outranging them because I don't have 6 feet of spear coming off my hand, one-handed that I'm reaching out with. And I can step into their spear and block with the shield. Otherwise, I like fighting with 8-foot spear. I also fight left-handed. If they're left-handed spearing, then that's the best position to kind of tie up their spear and like circle that around so that you can get the shot. You basically maneuver your spear so that yours ends up under theirs, and then you can move theirs or disengage and stab them like you're fencing. I also sometimes like just like holding it in my right hand and pull cueing at them, almost one-handed. I only really like to do that against people who will let you stab at them a lot though, and they won't kind of move in until they feel sure, because I'm just sure that I'll get my 2 hands back on my spear before they threaten me, so I'm willing to keep casting. Most really good spear fighters won't let you do that though. They'll just kind of run you down. Yeah, it's kind of my thoughts on it. I fight left-handed. Try to kind of get the other spears, and then, I mean, the biggest thing is like if you're spearing, you got to get your jukes down to where you can fight solo. Like if you can fight another border, then not only like that's sort of the test. Like if you're a good spear, then you can fight somebody solo because you're going to be accurate enough to fight other spears who you don't have a disadvantage against, and then you're going to be able to kill your main predator, which are the boardmen. And frankly, like, you have the range to do it. You always have first strike still. They never get to come at you and hit you for free unless they're coming at you from behind or from like the side, which you would lose with anything then. So, yeah.
So my end, spear is admittedly my worst combo out of literally everything. Maybe flail. I don't think I've picked up a flail in a good number of years, but so I and also my spear reign of terror ended. Well, first let me get some thanks out of the way. Hold on. Thank you, Opossum Wizard, for following, Atlas for subscribing through Prime. Everybody, if you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe and it doesn't cost you any money and it helps us out, so that'd be sweet. Thank you for following Renee Touche, and thank you for gifting a sub as well, so appreciate it. My reign of terror with the spear ended at Wolfpack when it cracked in half, which everybody at Wolfpack heard. That was me. And what I did, since I was amateur, I only used a spear a couple times. I used a dozer on my left side, so I'd play around at stabbing with a spear at people, and then since I was not good enough to one-on-one people, if somebody chased me down, I'd grab my sword, and all of a sudden I was sword and board, and I could whoop anybody's ass. But up until that point, that was my strategy. Was like, all right, let's stick to my strengths, which is not spear. While I try to learn this. So we talked about a good spear kit. Let's talk about so that we talked when we set up the show. We talked about two things: tournament spear fighting and field spear fighting. So let's talk about tournament spear fighting first. Marik or Batman, y'all figure out who wants to go first. But let's talk about, how does one fight in a tournament setting with a spear? What take it away.
Batman, since you got spear wins before me, you are the elder here.
All right, I'll do it. So to clarify a little bit, are we talking about what gets you into it, like what one would take to get into it, or are you talking about just learning the different styles?
So really, talk about you're talking to me, right? Like I'm a, let's say I'm a thank you very much, Dramaless Babe and Banjax for gifting subscriptions. Appreciate it. So let's say you're talking to me, right? Or me, an average fighter, or up to like a high level fighter or something that just isn't good at spear, right? They just don't know how to do it. But they have some fundamentals. They're maybe good at a few other combos, and they're like, I see you sparring and fighting in a tournament. Like how do I do that? What are some moves? How do I train? What are the things you do? What's your philosophy? All of it.
Okay. First things first, I'm going to emphasize on is always training with spear in general. Spears themselves, overall, all we can do is stab. Mm-hmm. Plain and simple. We can't swing. All we can do is stab. So our main focus is precision. And in a tournament, in my book, precision is the absolute most key. Precision or accuracy, whichever you want to call it. The idea you can hit the little nooks and spots on a person. And people ask, well, how can I even focus on learning that? And this kind of will carry over to field fighting and stuff like that too, is learning how to build that accuracy. And a lot of it is building up the endurance, pushing a broom, playing pool. But the one thing we always tell people is take a ball on a string, or attach something from a string in your garage. Stand there, stab at it. Mm-hmm. Take one hand and stab at it the entire time. I mean, if you're missing it completely right away, use two hands. Get that flow motion and learning how to hit exactly your little target that you're after. Then move up to one hand. Get that accuracy, get that muscle memory. Same thing that sword and borders have. We have muscle memory as well. And then start walking and throwing shots. And if you have to start with two hands, do the same thing. Like, learn to adapt to the angles, learning to do all that. Build your precision up. And then when you finally hit that point where you feel comfortable going into a tourney, then we can talk about stances. I mentioned it right away when we were talking about perfect field kits. I don't like bucklers, because whenever we go into a tournament, I can always look at a buckler spearman, and it's like, oh yeah, they're just a buckler spearman. And everyone gets this idea in a spear tournament that we go for kills. I don't know much about sword and board, but usually I would always interpret it as, if you're sword and board one-on-oneing, yeah, if you can get the kill, great, but dismantling is more important leading up to the kill. And especially in spears, if you can take a limb, their arm right away, that's pretty much, you just sealed 90% of the fight right there, because now they got one arm. And if most likely they're handling a 8-foot, 9-foot, 7-foot spear, that thing becomes very ridiculous to use at that point. You took away their range, they've already choked up, or they're going to try stabbing you far away, and it's a simple deflection and you can take shots and so on. So a lot of it is looking at their setup, going for the dismantling, finding out their weaknesses. I mean, I say weaknesses, you look at their stance and you can see it when you look at someone, how they hold themselves. Marik is a little more defensive with me. Manny, Mongoose, he's a little more aggressive. Each person has their weakness, and I know I have mine as well. We look for those and figure out how to capitalize on that. Now, that's more advanced stuff, but even then in the beginning, people just throw shots, and it's like you open yourself up. Learn to make someone make for their first shot. It's amazing at times how when I just sit there, I'm waiting for someone to throw a shot, they throw a shot and I just parry it. And literally when you go from, let's see if I can do this in the room here. This would be awesome. You go from this and I just deflected your shot. But look, this is all here just because I wanted to throw the first shot and they powered it off, and now they just turned my entire physics. Simple defensive maneuvers like that make all the difference in the world. If you want to learn how to work a tournament, find another spearman, spar with them, don't throw a shot. Just be defensive, learn to block all their shots, deflect, learn how to do all those things. And you're going to be amazed after you do learn those defensive maneuvers, how many open opportunities there are on people after they throw shots and how you can react to that. And if you've been working on that precision and accuracy I've been talking about, shots are there. So yeah, that's pretty much, I would say, the setup that I would recommend when it comes to tournament fighting. The good news is, we all know this. The majority of us know this about stabs. You feel it. It's really hard to not call a stab shot.
Mm-hmm.
You might get one where it's running up your arm. I mean, the reality is it probably would have stuck you. It's up to that person if they want to take it. But you know what? Keep working on your accuracy. They'll take it if they want it. So yeah. Marik, any, I know you got your different approaches. So
Yeah. So just to kind of go a little bit along with what you were saying, as far as like training wise, yeah, ball and a string is always a great one. I tend to practice like pivot maneuvers off of it, incorporating some footwork drills. Besides just walking at it.
How would
That
you
way,
define a pivot maneuver?
oh, I mean, I guess just turning with my hips into a shot as I'm throwing a spear. It's a combination like a step and a thrust at the same time. It opens your guard up slightly, but you're taking off center line, which if you've ever watched like a lot of spear fights, at least I guess besides like where Batman and I and Mongoose and many other tournament spear fighters are, is most people fight on center linearly, and it's, you know, that's okay, but you're not gonna necessarily get the kill off, even if it's a slight off center shot, you know, maybe to the shoulder versus, you know, way out past the hips. But because all it takes with a spear, I mean, you have 8 feet, but you can bend your arms at certain angles and just go right around someone's guard. Like they have I guess like an iron gate defense, which is just the spear pointed down, like what I primarily use. And you could maybe go off center, but to get into someone's gut or whatnot, because usually like the guard is made, at least kind of with Batman and I, because we tend to crouch, but we keep that guard tight right in there. That way, I mean, that's the largest hit area for most of us. So, but I digress. Outside of, you know, doing some Pell work, one thing I like to do is practice my Kona defense. And the Kona defense is just, if you've taken an SKBC like single short class or anything like that, you'll understand like there's range control with weapons. And so the way I break it down is you have your green range, which is past the tip, like that's your safety zone, and you have a nice wide area to work with. And then as you approach, you know, maybe like a foot or so to around the tip, it's the yellow, and then if they get past that, it's the red for me. And that may adjust depending on who I'm fighting. It really is more response based on like, how is someone attacking me? Like if Batman's attacking me, I have to adjust where that Kona defense is, because I know they're going to be more aggressive on me, and it would be the same with Mongoose. And so, do I need to tighten it up, stretch it out? Depends. But like with the spear, it's like if you've ever rode a canoe or anything, very minimal movement at the end, a lot of movement towards the end, and that is your Kona defense. And just practicing a circle, essentially, you can practice your defensive moves that way, and then add on to that your steps and pivots. if you need to. And then practice your elevation changes. Like, that is a major thing that you have to do in tournaments. Batman knows this. Anyone knows this. Manny has a really good elevation change. Half mine. Mongoose for the audience. Where he drops and stabs up under the guard, which is phenomenal. It's a great way to attack. Whereas I like to go above, he likes to go under. And sometimes Batman will do that too. Yeah. There's a lot of things that can be incorporated. It's just practicing them repeatedly, doing drills, because if you're just trying to throw everything together, it's not gonna work in system. Mm-hmm. And with Spear, the nice thing is you have very minimal moves that you can use and throw, and so the major focus is just on you. Because if you can't train yourself good, then the weapon you're holding is useless. Mm-hmm. You know. And like, especially with guards, like, I like to practice with my hands down rather than pointed up, pool cueing, because I think a pool cue is weak guard. So with my hands down, holding a spear, I have better leverage control. And that's one thing you have to practice, is like, you have anywhere from 6 to 10 feet in that range that Batman talked. You have to be able to work with all of it. If you hold it at the very end, you have very little leverage. You know, that's where you get those people that are just stabbing at the legs. Mm-hmm. But if you get to the very end, you have all the leverage control, and now you have a dagger. Mm-hmm. And then in the middle, nice middle ground. If you can control that leverage, you can manipulate your opponent. I could go into that in a little bit more detail, but I'm just kind of rambling.
Horus, do you have any? I don't have anything to add, because, like I said, I'm a very amateur spearman. Horus, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, well, yes, but I think that you both have really good points. I am not the best spearman myself, but I fight 2 insane ones all the time. Actually, now 3. And really just like getting sort of control over their spear, I think, in the spear fight too helps a lot. Even if you're not actually controlling their spear, just being able to predict where their spear is going to be because of your own movements is very helpful. That's why, like, spear fighting is so similar to fencing. It's very interesting. But that, like, if you can get that disengaged to where they're following your spear, and then you get to a stab, and you have that initiative to stab at them before they get a chance to hit you, and they're following the wrong way. So, like, if I'm sort of doing like the circles like Marik's talking about, and then I go and I'm doing this circle, and then I start stabbing this way, and then they move their spear to block, and then I pull back and stab, that's a disengage. Like, that's a really good tactic to use. And then another one would be, if I go to stab right and you pull your spear towards me, then if I then don't, instead of stabbing, if I actually push my spear against yours and you push into me, then I can actually pull, if I have leverage on you, I can actually pull your spear out of the way. And then when your spear's up and pointing somewhere and you don't really have control, then I can essentially disengage again. But now I'm disengaging from the position of you have no control over your spear, or you're trying to regain control, and then I'm disengaging from the circle straight in to the stab. So I have much more control, and the more precise you are, you know, if you've been practicing what Batman's talking about and stabbing the ball on the end of the string, you're gonna have really, really good stabs. And I've watched people do that many, many times. Himmel and Glass are both incredible at it.
So we're talking about one-on-one spear versus spear tournament fighting. Let's talk about field spear fighting. So this is, you know, this could be on a ditch, this could be in a field battle. This could, it could be all kinds of different scenarios where you don't know the kind of opponent you're going to face. You might have a team with you. How does that differ from tournament fighting?
Yeah, of course, I got it. So, like, field spearing, something that Batman and I both have enjoyed for a long time, just because of the sheer chaos that it brings. Like, don't get me wrong, it's great to face off against spears, but on the field, spear, you tend to get a higher KD ratio with that sort of weapon. But at the end of the day, it is primarily a support weapon. Like, can you stand alone with it? If you've practiced with it, maybe, but otherwise, you're probably going to get killed. So ideally, it is a team support weapon. So you need to be able to work primarily with teammates around. But finding a proper person to do that with is hard sometimes, especially when you're at an event and there's 400,000 people potentially on the field, all complete strangers for the most part. And so, like, shieldmen especially are always our key. However, finding a proper shieldman is hard because they like to cover you fully, and it's like, I can't see. You're essentially making me useless, and I don't want to just stab at legs. And you know, props to them for trying, but I really need you to let me work, and you have to let us work. We have a large weapon, and we can be a danger to our own team. That's happened to Bats and I, especially when half the core is, more than half the core is exposed. You're gonna bop people in the head, you're gonna hit them with the pommel, and so give us some birthing room. It's hard to get into a tight formation and work effectively, but when approaching a line, the main thing is you're not always attacking linearly. You never really want to attack the person in front of you. Because you have such a wide berth, you want to destroy everyone around you. You are a fan. And depending on how you're positioning, whether it's lefty or righty spear, you're going to have gaps open up. And people are crouched down, they're trying to get more defensive, and they just leave the bread and butter open. And so if I'm lefty spear, I like to always position myself, guess where? On the left side, where I have the most effectiveness of killing sword and borders, the main line of defense. If I can break those, we can sweep in and get them. And so positioning is really important. Where the head is and where it is going, right into someone's torso. And then you just go down the line. Working with others is very important. Trying not to get charged down is always kind of the hardest thing, because people want to do that to you. They see a spearman and they think, oh, easy kill. Easy kill. I get past the tip, boom, gravy. And probably for a good maybe 50-60% of the population, that might be the case, but it's not always the thing. So having someone guarding you, whether it's a redman. So I like to work when I'm at my home park of Dragonspire. I work with Var, who's a redman, Sir Var, and anyone tries to come in close, he just drops away, easy peasy. Or if I have an archer behind me, no one's going to try and get in close because they don't want to get shot. And so you are utilitarian in who you want to work with. That's a great thing. It just really depends on the combination, whether you're skirmishing or fielding. If you're in the main line, be the fan, fight everyone that is not in front of you. Give yourself birthing room. Use your cone of defense. Earlier we kind of touched on like circles and crescents. So like the crescent for getting that bread and butter spot, which is simply, you're just going up and down with your elbow. It's a simple motion, and you can squat while you're doing it to make it one full motion and get in there. Making yourself a smaller target is the best thing you can do, because archers are going to target you. That's especially if you're breaking up the line. Probably do need to bring a lamp over. It is getting darker. But yeah, making yourself a smaller target. I mean, this is when equipment choices play a major factor. whether you're using a buckler or back shield. Again, skirmishing, more for back shield. Front line, buckler, smaller buckler, so you don't get entangled. There was this event years ago in Batman, you'll remember this. Eyes of March, the Gully battle.
Oh my god. Oh god.
Yeah.
Oh, that
yeah.
was so horrible. So many injuries.
This is when I realized bucklers freaking suck, and you have to have a helmet, because it was the first year I bought my kettle helm, and I got thrown against a tree.
Jesus.
And that thing saved my life. It really did. And the buckler, I just got pulled into it. It was just a soup of people. And you're just getting 12 o'clock all day by Glaveman. It's tight. You have thorns and a ravine on one side, and then a large hill and thorns on the other side. It's a tight space. It's a no-no zone.
Yes.
You're lucky. When you have to get on someone's shoulders to stab people, that's a problem.
Wild.
I'm pretty sure you and I got thrusted up there, as well as Shay shooting people.
Yep.
But,
oh yeah. No, oh my god. Gully battles are horrible, man. I looked over, I was like, this is a poor life decision. It was the worst setup you could possibly think of. And by the way, when Marik says there was a riverbank with some thorns, if you fell off the riverbank, you didn't fall like 2 feet. You fell 10 to 15 feet into the water.
Yeah.
It was serious, like...
Did anybody fall?
I don't know if anyone ever fell, but...
Not in the times that I went, but there was a couple
good.
close calls.
But the blackberry bushes...
The thorns caught you first.
Yeah, the blackberry
Right.
bushes caught you.
Insult
like,
to injury.
Right?
If we got any Ampgarders in the chat, if y'all remember the original Rising Winds bridge battles that were fought on an actual bridge, and
What the fuck?
yeah, it was fought on an actual bridge, and there was like a railing and stuff, but there was a guy that jumped off the bridge and spiral fractured his entire leg and was was so dangerous, wildly dangerous.
That's terrifying.
And also, people were less concerned about playing tactically and more just concerned about playing with emotion, and they were just and just charge. I mean, it was wild.
That kind of reminds me of the Rag Castle too. Like it was
yeah.
definitely safer than that, but like people just slammed you into that thing. Like, and it was solid wood. Like it was very neat.
Horus, do you remember Keep on the Borderlands when it was at Wolf Creek State Park when Brennan had his 14-foot with only like 3 feet of strike padding, fully 10-point armor plate, just swinging that thing from door to door?
That does sound like a Brennan thing to do.
That sounds like
Most terrifying shit I'd ever seen.
There was that might have been there was a year that lived in infamy where I think it was Frostlands or somebody just brought a whole bunch of like 13 and 14 foot glaives or something, and then there was ever since then the next year and every year after that was like 10 is the maximum. You cannot have longer.
Polaris did that.
Wow.
Polaris did that. Yep, because I remember they brought those, and I remember I'd have to fight those things, and I wasn't. I mean, I'm part of Polaris, but I wasn't like I was part of their realm setup.
Yeah.
But I remember having to fight those things, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I gotta fight 3 of these things, and I would sneak through, and I get my stabs in, but eventually it's like, oh well, all we gotta do is choke up a little and hit you. And it's like, well, I'm dying, but at least I'm knocking off the points on your 10 points of armor and all that. So
That seems so much better in Amtgard though. In Belgarth and Dag, I feel like once you get over 10 feet, like your spear starts to become useless.
Yeah.
it does. It definitely does. The only reason why I worked in Amtgard was because you can crush the shields.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
and the thing was, is with Amtgard, it took, what was it, three crushums to break a shield, right, Tanith?
Yeah, and they don't
So
have
guess
to be
what?
solid. Just pop, pop, pop. You know.
Yeah.
if it's
So
a
guess what?
pull
They
up.
had 3 of them. So
Yeah.
all they had to do was all simultaneously hit your shield, and now it's
Stab you.
gone.
Yeah.
And it's like
Jeez.
it's over with now. And and that was what I remember about that. It was like, oh my living lord. And that's just it. The other thing when I tried doing Amtgard, I actually would like stab the shields and like actually stab them and move the shields. I'm like crush them. Like I would actually do it like legit crushing their shield. And I've had people be like, "Man, you're actually acting like you're gonna break my shield." I'm like, "What the heck?" And they're like, "No, you just tap it." I'm like,
That
"Okay."
Do you remember us pole vaulting over the hay bales at
Yep.
Keep
Oh, I love those days.
using our spears?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. I remember those days.
It was so much fun stabbing on top of those.
That was
standing on
We were gods
the other
then.
side.
That
Standing
was
on the other
the,
side as people
Oh
jumped,
god.
they jumped over the hay bale. They were just like, "Yeah, just
Yeah,
jump over the hay
that
bale
too,
blindly.
that
We're not
too.
here."
that was the year I met you. Which I think we
Yes.
talked about this. I don't know if you remembered that or not, because I think I said I met you at Keep, and you're like, you did, and I was like, yeah. But you stood out to me because somebody was telling me there's a bunch of Bell, or I don't know if you were Dag at the time. There's a bunch of Bell Dag guys here. I was like, that's wild. And then there's you should go look at that guy Batman. And so I look out into the ditch field, and I just see you're just running up and down the field, just just stabbing all these dudes. And you think Amtgard culture, that's not ditching. We just kind of, it's like a bunch of little spar fights usually. And so I'm watching you just go down this line, just murdering the entire line, and I'm like, that guy's fucking amazing. What is he doing? It was a good time. It was wild to watch.
You kind of remind me of what Megiddo,
Yes.
Noah Smith.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Him and I became friends at MAME. Because once again, for some odd reason, Amtgard doesn't believe in spears, and I was the only guy there.
No, they don't.
And he looked at me. He's like, "That guy's got a spear. Either he's really bad with it, or he's really good. I'm gonna go find out." And then I nutted him, and he's like, "Oh God, he's good." I was like, and we became friends
Wear
off
cup.
that. Yeah,
That
yeah.
sounds
Why
like
does
something-
no one wear cups? I don't understand that.
You know what I really don't understand? When you slough spear shots and you still don't wear a cup.
Yeah.
That's
Seriously.
really unsafe.
Sorry. Not sorry.
Not sorry. Nope.
I'm not.
So let's talk about the well, first let's take it to chat. I'm going to take it to chat and see, because we're going to our final topic is talking about hey, what's up, Mabel? How you doing? Our final topic is talking about the history and growth of Spear. So we'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about let's take questions from the audience. Let's
Quite a few.
the small dick meta.
That was
This is a reoccurring theme.
glorious.
I thought it was the small. Yeah, it was the small nut meta. That's right. That's the new meta. Because you get older, you take testosterone supplementation, your nuts shrink, and then that's the small nut meta. You don't get hit in the nuts as easily. It's a whole thing.
That's so good.
So let's take some questions from the audience. See if they have any questions about spear fighting, and ask these guys some questions. So I can't even focus with the shit that's happening.
Before you ask one, do you guys do the same thing when you're spearing in a line and you're stabbing them, and then they're giving you nothing up top, so you just start stabbing their legs, and then if they don't take legs, it's just under and then straight into the groin. I'm not even necessarily trying to hit them in the nuts. I just feel if you get somebody in the inside of the hip, they're way the hip pocket, they're way less likely to slough that.
Oh no, absolutely. That area, that's open season for me. In fact, I'll even say to someone, "I'm sorry," and then just hit them there, and it's ask Frosty. I've even said to Frosty, I'm like, "Sorry, Frosty, I gotta get you on my way," and just nailed him. And he's just like, "Why?" I'm like, "You're in my way. Get out of here."
Mm-hmm.
And he's a good friend of mine, so it's like, nope. It's open season.
Wolfenstein wants to know if we've talked about power generation yet, which I don't think we have. So let's talk about power generation.
All right. Well, I think Batman can agree with me. I mean, most of the power generation for us is hips, then shoulders, then forearms. I mean, obviously you're channeling it from your feet as well, but that's just a part. But most of the base power is your hips when you're thrusting. Because if it's all coming from your arms, I mean, you're just gonna tire yourself out. And then that shoulder's that nice little boom right into you.
There is one thing about power generation, and this is kind of a newer spear mistake. Like Marik said, hips, shoulders, arms, feet all generate your power. A lot of spear fighters, though, plant their legs to get the sway. And the thing is you don't want to do that either, because when you plant your feet, you, especially for aggressive spear fighters, we can pounce in there, especially with our momentum, quick stab you and get out before you even realize you got to pull your feet back. So a lot of it, like Marik said, is generating that power, that momentum. And the one thing I always tell people is don't keep your feet planted. Keep them moving as well. Keep it moving with the spear, because if you just plant your feet and you do this, yeah, you're dead. You've already just signed your warrant if you're in front of me. So
I typically fight on the balls of my feet most of the time to give myself a little extra spring step. I don't like to wear heavy shoes for that reason either. If you're going to step, you should throw something, because if you step, you're opening yourself up automatically. And I know Batman will take advantage of that. I would take advantage. Anyone would take advantage of that. And so you have to throw something while you move. And so that's another way to generate power, is within your step and that hip.
Actually, Marik, you just kind of something that brings up my generating power. One of my favorite stabs to throw on shieldmen is the swinging stab, because you so much. You generate so much power. You literally look and you see the sword and border doing this, and it's like, oh yeah, there's the and they're like probably off 2-3 o'clock, and literally you just swing the spear, and now you just generated the force, and you just let fly straight at them, and it looks like a swing, but then all of a sudden the spear's in front of you, and it just drills into you, and it's like, and I've had guys tell me, you can't swing a spear. It's like, did the point go into you? And they're like, yeah. It's like, you're dead. It pushed you back. That's called a swinging stab. It sounds like a hypocrisy, but for generating power, especially when I lose an arm, if I lose my right arm, I will swing that spear and just drive it forward at angles, and it generates so much power. And so...
And another thing too is, outside the swinging stab, there's the low stab, where you literally take your knees and you're kind of going off of that with your legs, and you're just pushing up into them rather than really having to throw your arms out there. And if you're going low and hitting the solar plex or the dicker balls, that general area, boom,
spot stab.
Yeah. Like, you don't have to do too much, and it's a quick movement. Like,
you're dropping into the squat, and your drop down is then channeled into your stab forward.
Yeah.
It's very mean. Sudden power.
Well, there's the scoop shovel stab. That's all generation power too. It works great on line fights, because when we engage in line fights, typically it's the length of the weapons that determine the fight, and we might get a little closer instead of having, being 8 feet away where we have 8-foot poles. You get that 5-foot mark. But one of my favorite things is when we start getting close encounters, and this is the one time I always tell people I'll switch from this to underneath, is you throw a shot, and what happens is it's like you're scooping. When you throw a shot, you hit the end of your arm, and it literally channels up and underneath. And guess what? Everyone's got the shield right here. Hits the bottom of the shield, and with that force going up, it drives it right to their solar plex, and it's all physics. It's amazing how that force literally pulls it right up underneath and kills them into their stomach. Like, that's once again power generation. And I tell people that sword and borders, I feel bad because there's nothing you can really do to stop it other than a knight's shield because of the baseball diamond, but even then your hips are exposed. So
one thing to go off of that scoop, though. The scoop, though easy to do, and if you have the right hand positioning, it can work fairly well. However, it's one of those that you definitely have to practice with, because more common than not, this is the move that usually newer fighters will use and hurt people with, because that scoop is very easy to do because they go past the reach, and it always hits someone in the neck and the face, and so you kind of have to step with it if you want it to be used properly, because if you step, then it'll be aimed for the solar plexus, but if you don't, you end up reaching and you just scoop someone in the face. And it's one of my major pet peeves when when training or working with someone that's new.
How do smaller fighters like Tonberry, how do they generate power?
I can actually, because Tom Barry and I worked together an awful lot initially, especially when she was starting out. Same thing. It's generating the force and constant moving. She is very aggressive as well. And because I'm a smaller person, it's that constant movement and using that and channeling that energy that keeps us going forward. Unfortunately, I will say this for the sake of Tonberry, she gets a lot of people not taking things because they don't. First off, they're usually all caught up in the moment. They don't realize they're getting stabbed, which happens to a lot of people in general. But on top of it, she gets the shaft because of her smaller build. She'll generate the force, but some people are just so shocked by someone coming out of nowhere. They're like, "Oh, light," and it's like, okay. But a lot of it is she knows she's got to keep on her feet more than anything.
Have you ever? Let's see, where'd the question go? Have you ever stabbed all of someone's limbs and potatoed them before killing them?
All the time.
Oh yeah, I did that at what was that? Somebody's Squire trial. Who was it that
Was it a Southern event?
No, it was at Ockfest. Boehner's Squire.
Oh yeah.
What was his name? Scotty. I can't think of his actual fighting name. What's that? Feral Honey. What's his name?
Fleets from me.
Iggy? Oh yeah, Iggy. Ignatius.
Oh yeah, Iggy.
You potatoed Iggy.
Oh, I'm not gonna lie, buddy. I did it to make a statement because I like him. He's a good sport. I potatoed him, and I said, "You don't have the right to die yet." And I held him up, and I was like, "Now you can die." And I just stabbed him. I was like, it was fun to make the little bit of the statement with him because he was a good sport. I felt bad. He went 30. I think it was 38 rounds with me, and he got his kill. He was so proud of that kill, and that kid took so much. He earned his stripes that day. I give him a lot of credit for all the shots he took from me.
What's the Glenn wants to know? What's the most egregious slough you've ever experienced? Without naming names. Let's not throw anybody under the bus unless they've been banned. Then fuck them.
I don't actually know this person's name, but I literally once got two-hand stabbed straight sternum. He was wearing armor, but I stabbed him so hard that when I pushed, I made him step back, and he called bite.
Oof.
And I was like, dude, I just pushed you off your foot. And he was like, oh yeah, I guess I'm dead. I was like, okay.
I guess for me, it would have been at an Olympics, maybe 5 years ago. There was this dude wearing plate armor. I already don't like people that necessarily wear full plate for a game just because it's foam. It's hard to hear and feel already. I already have enough problems dealing with some amp guard people. But yeah, he sloughed my gut stab. Said it was light. I was like, okay. And I just willed back as hard as I could, two hands, right into the dude's plate and dented it.
Oh shit!
Wow.
And I think it's still there.
Oh wow!
Nice.
Yeah, great. He's a great dude, though. Fantastic. We love him. But on the field,
Wild.
Also,
some
for
things can
anyone
be
that hasn't experienced it, you should try just one day wearing armor and having somebody hit you with a strike and then a stab, and you'll find that getting a sufficient stab on someone with armor is actually pretty hard. A lot of people that you're stabbing in the greaves aren't necessarily sloughing you if they can't see you stabbing them. Like, they probably literally can't feel it. It's pretty egregious when you move someone like that, or you like get a good gut stab. Like, those are really hard shots that like knock the wind out of you if you aren't wearing armor, so they'll feel those. But if you just like kind of hit somebody's armor and slide off a little bit, you don't like really stick, like they probably don't even notice that you're hitting them.
100%, and that's, I think, the major issue that it comes to with stabbing armor is the fact that it slides off most of the time, and the transferability of force can be a little bit hard, especially if some people are really just going off of the sound.
Yeah.
Most of the time, and if you're wearing a Gambi on top, Gambi underneath that, especially a decent Gambi, yeah, it's gonna be really hard. And doing a little bit of SCA over the years, just a sparring really, and having some plate, it's not the best thing. And so I don't like discredit those people at all that necessarily want to wear it. It's just you're gonna run into some issues, and you just gotta be prepared for it. There's always the right approach to it.
Mongoose wants to know: did your spear tip survive?
I had to replace it after that event. It's just like fighting the Romans at Rag. I mean,
God,
it's worth it. It's worth it, but goddamn, like, come on, is it?
Batman, what's in your nano tank?
this ain't my room.
Oh, all right.
This is Sparrow. Okay, so Sparrow is all about animals. I am all about okay. Is snails and shrimp?
Snails and shrimp.
I guess snails and shrimp. I don't know. Hey, look, she's all about the animals. I am anti-animal. So
here's a more spear related question from Fancy Pudding. What do you guys do when you have a pierced primary arm with a spear? Do you keep the spear, like if you just have one arm left, do you just keep the spear, or do you draw a sidearm? What do you do?
You got some Batman, because I do as well.
and this is gonna be varying depending on each person. So if my arm's gone, and it's amazing how people will discredit a spearman with one arm, because oh hey, they ain't got an arm anymore. I can do this. They're not a threat anymore. I have stabbed so many people with one arm stabs because I have enough arm strength where I can literally take my 9-footer, lift it off at the base, generate that force, and whether it's a swinging stab or straight on, and just solar plex. So my preference is if we're in a line fight, I'm going to I'm not choking up on the spear. I'm gonna take the long end, and I'm gonna go. You still reuse my reach. It's just now I got one arm instead of two, and I can still generate more than enough force. And so I don't like to choke up. Now, if I'm on my own, I'm by myself, we're in a tournament. Oh no, I'm choking up right away, and I'm gonna do my best to close that distance and go in on you. So.
I would agree with Batman. Like, tournament fighting, definitely choke up, because I mean, it depends on who you're fighting, but most of the time you just have to keep a tight guard there with that. And as far as like field fighting, I don't know if you've come across me on the field. Half the time I'm legged or armed when I'm fighting y'all. I turn my spear into a rapier, kind of like what Horus was saying earlier with using it, a one-handed spear is like. That's what it becomes at that point. Just keep your distance because you've lost leverage power, and just try to stab them. Use an angle. I really like to like step with my spear and hook, because guess what's all open still? All the chest, everything on the left hand side. Now, if I'm doing right, if I'm pierced in my or if I'm pierced in my left arm, and I have using it right-handed, I might shift and try to stab at someone's forward arm because they're putting it out there for a guard, or hit their ass, the side of their hip, or their legs, like just little pocket points that I can maybe pivot off of. And if you apply like some elevation change, that opens it up a lot more to what you can do. You can stab underneath. As long as you keep your center of gravity good, you don't have to worry about falling over. And if you keep a straight back, maybe chin up, just like how you would do in fencing, you're able to get in there and have control.
So I started spear fighting one-handed with a band shot pull spear. And I would still just stab people one-handed with my shield in my other hand. And if you can do that, like, if you're spear fighting all the time, you probably already can just use one hand, right? And like, you can get crazy angles on spears. Like you don't have to necessarily reach around them. Like if you step right, people's right hand then thinks like, oh, my shield's here, I'm safe. Like you're saying, you could just stab their forward arm. Like they will not see it coming. You're crossing them. Just don't cross their face to where you might stab them in the head, right? Like just stab them in the elbow or something when it's sticking out as they're swinging at someone. Like stab their right leg as their right leg's forward. Stab around. If you can see some guys, like maybe you can't even see his elbow. You can really only see his shield, but just like stab at his elbow, like just around it, even if it's out of sight. You probably get that. And like I started fighting, I still do this at practice right now because I just like fighting weird stuff. I've been fighting left hand single spear with it choked up. I'm like fighting with basically a 4-foot spear, but it's 8 feet long. And then if they get at me, I like hold my spear up in a weird way just to like block off one whole angle. So they have to swing around it. And then I like fight around that with my sword. But I straight up stab people in the right arm, like with a 4-foot spear all day. Like people, Fingolfin at Numenor, he wears bracers when he fights me because he laughed at me the first time I did it, and I stabbed him in the arm 3 fights in a row, and then he went and got his bracers. And I still stabbed him in the arm, in the upper arm. Like it's not like it's very doable. If you practice enough, you can stab people with one hand, and if you're armed, like just stab them with one hand. Fight around with one of your friends.
Moving on to our last topic, the history, growth, and the future of spears. Marik, take it away. I've got a graphic up here of two gentle folk in plate mail with two-handed swords.
Oh, okay. So just a little history of spearing. Like one thing that really helped get me kind of where I'm at with spear was actually it started partially from red fighting, and I really wanted to do HEMA. And so what I did was I having to fight more armored people. I wanted to practice like how me, a non-armored person, can fight someone that's armored, and so I adopted the half sorting style. And the half sorting style is actually a part of like a 14th century treatise known as the Iron Gate style, which is in the next picture that Tanny has.
It's up now.
Yeah, because what I'm kind of seeing, not just with spear, but with multiple weapon types, is there's somewhat of a bridge between HEMA and foam, and that a lot of the stuff that Batman, myself, Techno, Mongoose, and all of them, it's kind of been in a treatise before. Like, for instance, in the picture that is being presented, if I can, I had a copy here. Aha! Like the bottom left image, that is Iron Gate style. Mm-hmm. Or no, the top left is Iron Gate style, and that gives you good control. So it's fun history. Point in that, like, you don't necessarily have to look at fighters, especially if you don't have like the resources to get to them. Like, there are stuff that you can adapt from treatises and stuff, but I mean, traditionally, like, our spear fighting used to be, for the longest time, it was just hold it at the end and stab the legs, right? You get past that, you're done for, and you normally have to stick with a buddy. It doesn't make it very fun. Only, between the carbon revolution in the early 2010s has really revolutionized the way in which we do fight. But then again, you could have fought that way with bandshot pull, but internet resources are always really hard to find. And so, like, a lot of us, like how I learned to fight, I mean, don't get me wrong, I learned from my knight showing me stuff, but I learned on old YouTube videos by this guy named Grumio from way back in the day, from like Arendor.
Grumio?
Huh? Grumio. Grumio. He had videos like a 11-part series. They're like 2-3 minutes. Little colorful language choice, but the basics of a lot of it is right there. Yeah. What Cap is saying in the chat. But otherwise, we didn't really have much resources back in the day. People were using spear hooks. We had these large poof ball spears because the techniques for making them, like, we didn't have the material science. I mean, really, actually, we did. It's just people don't know how to research on Google a lot of time. Because a lot of the links are just on Geddon.org if you want to make good spears. I learned primarily off the Dagger here Arrakis method for making spears before the boards were taken down back in the day.
Oh wow, that's a blast from the past.
Yeah, I still have the tutorial somewhere, and several others that I've archived. But I mean, really, the tech hasn't changed too much. I mean, even between, the Arrakis and your style bats, like, it's not much different, other than the core choice.
Mm-hmm.
Core choice and choice of cap, because everyone was appalled that I was willing to put a 2.5 inch washer in my spears, and they're like, "Why would you do that? That's got metal in it." And it's like, yeah, it's meant to disperse the force at the end so I don't break your ribs. And like, well, what if you swing your spear? It's like, spear. Why am I swinging it at you like it's a blue or a red? That was the one thing that a lot of people were shocked about. And the only reason why I stuck with the metal was because I used leather, and I always had that fear, because when I would redo my spear tips, I noticed some of the leather would take the indent of the carbon fiber.
Yeah.
And I was afraid someday it was gonna go through and I was legitimately gonna kill someone. I don't need that on my mind. So I switched to metal.
Please don't stab me with your carbon fiber.
So yeah, that was probably the big thing. And like you said, carbon. Carbon was probably. I hate to say it, and I'm not trying to say that I founded it. I didn't. I was the one that made the big push for it. A lot of people told me carbon wasn't gonna fly. I remember seeing Sir Braun from Albion, of the Suns. He had a style of carbon I saw at Geddon, like I think my 4th year or 3rd year into the sport. I looked at that and I expanded on it, and I got into the filament wound. I messed with a lot of different types of carbon fiber. I used the Kevlar. Remember the Kevlar mix that they were trying to do?
Yeah.
Kevlar mixed with carbon. Yeah, that didn't work. I remember making one of those and it broke on the first day. I remember people being like, use bamboo. I remember going to I think it was Geddon one year, or it was Spring Wars. I went there with 5 of them. I broke 3 of them the first day. Then the next day I broke 2 of them. I was like, no, this isn't working.
You need ironwood.
No, yeah, you do. You absolutely do. But even then, it's like, but ironwood, when you feel the weight of it, is almost as heavy as band shop. So it's like, well, I'd rather stick with carbon, and you work with it. And like I said, it took figuring out what was the right stuff. And then, like I said, because I remember Gorg messaging me when we were able to figure out we could swing with carbon fiber. He's like, do you mind if I start selling this stuff and getting into it? It's like, I don't care. I'm not trying to make money off this. I just wanted future, like I like investing and trying new stuff and seeing if it worked. And I don't know what more we could do in the future right now. It seems like carbon fiber is, unless we could figure out a new core that's lighter weight yet. I've been looking around for the durability.
Well, I mean,
don't know what to do.
it also comes down to mass, because at that point, if we reduce the mass anymore, like, you're already having problems on the field today with carbon not being able to be felt very often. I mean, there's light red hits, there's light stab hits. The power generation just isn't what it was 10 years ago.
Well, and that's the fighter as well, though. I mean, sometimes the fighter does that, but those thin ones that like Gorg has, or I think some of those guys are using those thinner stabby ones. You don't even block a red shot with those. I'm just like, don't. I mean, it'll stop one red shot. That's what it'll do. It's gonna stop one red shot for you, and then you're not using it anymore, and you just wasted $150, $200. So
we're running low on time. Let's make sure we get in the growth of spear, or the future of spear fighting. Where's spear fighting going to go from here?
Mind if I take this one, Merrick?
Yeah, go right ahead, Ben.
So the big thing we've been working on now is all of us, Merrick, Tonberry, Techno, Troan, myself, Manny, a bunch of us have kind of came together and we realized, hey, look, we need to. There's not enough spear fighting out there. I mean, there's a lot of spear fighters, but there's not many. And not to try to sound snobbish, there's not a lot of people really establishing themselves as being really good at it. And we all kind of said, well, we need to start teaching people. Spear is a very viable weapon if you have the right people teaching it. And the thing that we asked ourselves, well, Sword and Board has their teachers, Flow, Red users. You got the the Blade Masters, all these different groups. What do you have for spears? Nothing. So we all came together and said, hey, look, we need to teach our knowledge. We got to pass on our skills and so on. So we all established the Impalers. We're in the process of figuring things out, and we have our trials. We're going to take on proteges or Padawan, whatever we. Basically, we're going to be passing this along. We're trying to expand spear fighting, take those underneath and teach them and help expand it more. Because let's be honest, better spear fighters will make us better spear fighters as well, and it'll make better fighters on the field. So that is the approach we've been taking. Fancy Pudding is asking, what are the Impalers? It's basically, think of it kind of like a knight in Belagarth or Blade Masters. Basically, it's a title. And what happens is you have to go through a series of challenges to prove that you are on that level of skill. It's a combination of ethics, skill level shown, being able to hold yourself, your mentality.
Stewardship.
Exactly. Caring about your future. That is the most important thing of all. So that's pretty much what Impalers are. We have a logo. We're trying to figure out how we want to display ourselves yet. But once again, we're already in the process. We've all got our trials figured out. And some of us have undergone them and gotten through them. So we're trying to make sure that it helps. Someone has to earn it. But the thing is it will be a path well worth doing if it's something of interest for those that want to do it.
Giant golden codpiece. That's the symbol of the Impaler.
I mean, that's right up your alley, Bats. we can bling it out. We can put LEDs on it.
Yes.
Spinning lights, a speaker in it that plays the
Highway to the
Top Gun
Danger Zone.
theme.
Danger Zone. Yes. Oh, you got in trouble for that, man. I still can't believe they made you shut that off that day. I was so angry.
Oh yeah. So angry. And the post afterwards, people were so upset by Music Box.
Final thoughts on spear fighting. Give me 2 sentences. 2 sentences.
It's a silent fighting type, but it's the strongest out there, in my opinion.
Horribly underrated.
Who's underrating spear fighting? Who are these people?
Oh gosh,
it is.
I have had so many people, when they see me by myself, think I can take him one-on-one. I've had Sword and Boardmen just rush me, and I've taken them out, and I've knocked the wind out of them. And they're like, what just happened? And it's like, you died. People see just a spear protecting us, and they can take that. We are underrated, plain and simple.
True.
Horus, final thoughts on spear fighting.
It's really fun. You should fight with a spear, and if more people fight with spears, then maybe we'll balance them appropriately, because they're absurdly powerful right now.
Tanny, final thoughts on spear fighting. I think 2025 could be the year of the spear for me. Of course, I just broke my fucking spear, but if I get another one, like this is a goal. This is a goal that I can push after, and that's been searching for goals to push out after in foam fighting. So maybe I'll pick up spear and try to get good with it. I like the idea. Say
I'll
again?
offer it to you. I'll offer mine to you if you want to have some fun.
Hey, baby girl, calm down.
Maybe I'll get stabbed by you less in the chest if I get better at it. Thank you, Marik. Thank you, Batman, for joining us. This was an absolute clinic on spearfighting. Thank you so much. We're gonna go ahead and wrap up the show real quick. Let's see. We are going to the new slide. Tune in next show. Our next show Next show is in not this coming weekend, but the following, since we're every other week. We are going to be discussing optimizing your training time, but also specifically, we're going to talk about SKBC. We're going to have Glenn on in our show in 2 weeks, and we're going to have Peter the Quick back, and we're going to talk about, for those going to SKBC, picking your SKBC classes. And, for those that are not going to SKBC, we're also going to be talking about optimizing your training time and basically how to be a good student. So that's our next show. Tune in and what's the date on that? That's going to be...
We should live sign me up for classes.
That's a fucking phenomenal... That's what we're doing. We're doing that.
Yeah,
that's an
I really
idea.
like that idea.
That is the March 27th. And then... Horus, great show, homie. Everybody, thanks for jumping in. Final thoughts for the day?
Wait, hold that back up, Marik.
Wait.
Nobody else can see this, but Marik says, miss you, Mongoose, miss you, Cornix,
Mallory.
and Mallory.
Good people. Very good people.
Thank you, guests, for joining us yet again. And
thank you so much.
Wait, what am I supposed to say? I always forget this.
Don't hide.
Yeah, don't hide. It's literally written on me. Don't hide. Don't hide. I was supposed to say something that makes that relevant.
I don't remember. I'm sorry. My brain is mush. It's been mush for 2 days now.
I smoke too much weed. That's why my brain's mush. Catch y'all later. Peace out.
Yeah.
Somewhere in time